works out like it's supposed to. This is going to be a video of this 1956 Studebaker Powerhawk getting its floors replaced. I'm not a welder, so this could be a challenge. Let me give you a little bit of a look at what I'm up against here. The floor is not Swiss cheese, but it's not far from it. We got holes in the floor pan there. Holes in the floor pan over there. You can see here along the rockers, we got some holes there. Got holes in the front driver's seat. I had a little tape over them because I was driving it. Kept the hot air off my feet. Little holes there. Somebody put a galvanized patch in here at some point before I got the car, so there's a big hole cut under there. Same thing on the other side, on the passenger side. Sorry, I know I didn't really post any of the mechanical work that was done on this car, but basically the engine and transmission are good, but I completely rewired it front to back, new brakes front to back. Replaced a lot of the components, rebuilt a lot of the components, carburetor, distributor, all of that sort of stuff. Got a brand new fuel tank in it. Have temporary fuel lines in there. Once I get the floors done, I'll put in proper brand new bent steel lines just like I did the brake line. Anyhow, there's a synopsis already posted on YouTube on one of my videos that shows all the work I've done on it. I've done a little bit more since then, but that's pretty much the list. As you can see, I finally got the seats out. They fought me literally every step of the way. I did as much cutting as I did unbolting. But they're out now. As you can see, there's a whole lot more rust in this floor than, well, not more than I was anticipating, but certainly more than the guy that sold it to me said there was. Like I said, I got all new floor pans, footwells, and a couple of sheets of spare 18 gauge sheet metal to get this all back together the way it's supposed to go. One more thing I want to show you. After I got done ripping them back seats out, look what I found underneath. This was a tag attached to the bottom half of the back seat. It says December 29th, 1955. I have to imagine that was pretty close to the day that the car rolled off the assembly line. Certainly within a week or two. So it is a 1956 model, but it looks like it might have been built at the very end of 1955, which is pretty cool. This right here was under the front seat. This is all that's left of it. It's a piece of a much bigger document, but I found it under the front seat, or under what was left of the rubber mat in the under the front seat. So it looks like the old Studebaker was providing a home for this guy. Looks like he's been dead quite a while though. Found him underneath the back seat. He'd used a lot of the stuffing from the front seat to create a nest for himself under there. He's been dead a long time. Here you can see roughly how the new pan is going to overlay the old pan. It's going to require some trimming. It's not an exact fit, but it'll work. Just wanted to give you a quick shot of what this looked like once I got that galvanized patch out of there that somebody had screwed in there many years ago, apparently. You can see there's quite a bit of rot in the front driver's floor. Got my work cut out for me there. I'm going to have to fabricate a little patch to go in the corner because the floor pan that I ordered doesn't flip up on the edge there. That won't be that big of a deal. The other piece I'm going to have to fabricate is way in the back here. There's a bit of a hole back there, but again, that won't be too bad of a deal. The sides are pretty solid, so I don't anticipate having any trouble welding that. And then, of course, there's a little patch right there I'm going to have to fabricate on the rocker panel. The rockers are really, really solid all the way from the front until it gets right about there, the last probably 8 or 9 inches. It's got that rust, but the actual rockers are solid as a rock. They're surface rust. That's about it. So I kind of lucked out there. I'll have good metal to weld to there. Just been taking some of the metal out, doing some exploratory, figuring out where the good metal ends and the bad metal begins. So you can see I got the footwells cut out. I'm going to pound this all out straight with a hammer and dolly. And I'll grind down the rest of the factory welds. The new floor pan ends right about here, so it's going to come up to about here. Comes over this way. Ends right about there. Fortunately, everything from here back is pretty solid. I am going to have to put a patch in back here. That's going to have a very small patch up in the corner, but all of this right here is solid. It's a little dicey right in here. The solid metal starts pretty much where it goes vertical. On the other side of that corner, this is a little bit thin right here, so I'm probably going to cut it up right to that seam and then weld the seam. I'm not going to separate the fender from the rocker. I'm keeping the rockers intact to provide rigidity. As you can see, I don't have a brace welded in here. So far, just keeping the rocker in there has allowed me to keep the door gap and everything with no problem. The door closes just fine. I'll show you when I'm done. This brace here is going to need some repair. As you can see, it's thin right in here. Pretty much from here over is nice and solid. But this, from about here to here, I'm going to weld in a piece of 18 gauge. On top of this, I'm going to grind all this down and weld it together just to add a layer of strength in there. The sides of it are just fine, very solid. This over here is totally solid. The frame, as you can see, the frame is really nice and solid. I'm going to take all this down with a wire wheel and put some rust converter on there. I'm going to do that with all the bits underneath, everything that I can get to when this comes up. Let me turn you around. We'll look at the driver's footwell here. Turn on the flashlight so you can see. Basically where the floor ends is where the bad metal ends. As soon as it turns vertical is good metal. There's a couple of factory access holes for something there. Those are not rust holes on the vertical part. Down here this is all rust. Up here this is all solid. I think the new floor pan that I'm putting in actually ends right about here and goes up. So I am going to have to fabricate this piece here out of some 18 gauge. I'm going to put in the vertical parts from here up are solid, completely solid. Also, you can kind of see where the rust line ends here. Oddly, where they had that galvanized piece screwed in here, that's where all the weak metal ends. This back here is really solid. Nice, solid, presumably 18 gauge or whatever they used on these Studebakers back then. Over here, by the gas pedal, that's the gas pedal. The floor patch doesn't actually cover this bit. It stops right about here. That's approximately the line of where the floor pan ends. So I am going to have to fabricate this part right where the heel goes, right where the driver's heel goes, to run the gas pedal. Because the actual floor pan that I bought ends right here. It comes out to here, but not all the way here. So I'm going to have to put an fabricate an 18 gauge patch to go in here where this part is weak. The floor pan that I'm putting in comes from where my hand is, from the rocker, over to this black line here that I put in there with a Sharpie. As you can see, there's a lot of bad metal between where the floor pan ends and where the good metal starts. Especially right there. Basically, the good metal starts approximately where the masking tape line is, the blue masking tape. So I had to make a patch today. This is made out of 18 gauge steel. You can see where that patch goes, roughly right in there. I'll weld that in, and that'll take up the gap between the space that the floor pans I bought weren't going to take up. So the floor pan will fill from the rocker here all the way to this patch panel I made, and this metal here is still solid, so I didn't need to cut that out. But okay, so here's a quick shot of that little patch installed. Actually ended up being 3 patches when I first made it. I made it just a little bit short, and the floor that I was welding into was a little bit thin, and it was just blowing through, so I had to make a couple of extra patches to go on the ends of it and on the side down here, just so that I could extend that up a little bit and be able to weld into good metal up here. So there's the main patch, there's one up at the top, and then there's the third one here that make up the patch there. But the contour is good, and I'll hit that with some primer once I get it in, keep it from rusting. But it's a good solid piece of metal. About 1,000 times better than what was there. Alright folks, I wanted to show you a solution I came up with for this floor brace that needed some patching. You can see it's solid, right? Solid there. That's all solid back there, but you got a soft spot right there and a hole. Here's what I came up with for that. Basically just put this together out of some scrap. Drilled some holes in it. I'm going to spot weld it down and then tack weld the edges. That fits right there, just like that. That'll restore the strength to that area that was missing. Alright, speaking of the floor pan, I've got that trimmed up in all the right places and ready to go in. I've got a couple of coats of self-etching primer on it, just to kind of keep things a little bit protected until I can get it in.
Here's a picture of a weak spot that I found. This is right behind the floor brace patch that we saw in the previous clip. Unfortunately, I can't find the video for this, so all we have is this one photo, but this is a small patch I had to make to cover a weak spot that the floor pan didn't quite cover.
And there's that patch welded in. I know my welds look really ugly, but I made sure they're strong. See, that is one strong, continuous piece of metal now. No more weak spot. Alright, there's the little patch that we finished in the back for that floor support. I've got one just like it under the driver's feet in the front. And so I made that to go there. Should stiffen that up a good bit and make for a nice repair. Well, I keep having to make little patches. As I was cleaning up the metal here for the footwell, I noticed a very thin spot rusted through right down here, so I had to make this patch for the transmission tunnel. But now, as you can see, that's sturdy. Got rid of that weak spot. Alright, so I started installing the main floor pan on the driver's side. So far all I got done are some spot welds. Ugly spot welds, but strong at least. Along the rocker here. Doubling up that rocker thickness should give it some additional strength, and I'll seal it off with some seam sealer, make sure it keeps the moisture out. Anyhow, feels good to have this main piece started in. So I'm starting to get this footwell put in. It's going in pretty well. I got to push it up from the bottom a little bit for some of the holes on the ends. It occurred to me I hadn't got any welding videos, so I'll probably do a quick video of me putting in these spot welds. My first welds on this thing were so ugly I didn't dare film them. They're pretty bad. But as I go, I'm getting experience. I'm getting a little bit better at it. Just goes to show if I can do it, anybody can do it. Just making sure that the metal is as close together as I can get it before I start the weld. Alright, that's pretty good. Hit it with a wire wheel one more time just to pick up any contamination that could be in there. I did clean up all the surfaces beforehand, but I'm going over them again just right before I weld. Well, the three of those weren't perfect, but they're not too bad. They're way better than I was doing on when I first started these spot welds. So the floor is in the driver's side. I haven't started the passenger side yet. I'm going to do a little more detailed video of the passenger side. But as you can see, we got it all in. Seam sealed, primed, painted. One last patch on this side. Actually, there's one on the rocker panel too, a smaller one. Alright, so there's the hole I got to fill. There's the patch I made. Well, there's the patch welded in. Some of the welding got a little bit ugly. The metal was a little bit thinner than I'm used to, so I probably should have cut the patch a little bit bigger. But I got it in there all right. It's a solid piece. It's not going anywhere. All right, this is the underside of the patch that we just did. Driver's side rear of the car. There's the rear tire right there. Anyhow, this is the underside of the patch that we just did. As you can see, the brace is a little bit ragged too. It's not gone. The parts that have to be strong are still strong. But we made a patch to go in there. We'll spot weld that in there. Help get it back some of the strength it's missing from the holes.
Okay, I can't find the video that's supposed to go here of me welding this patch in. For the most part, the patch looked pretty much like the other patches after it was welded in, the ones that you've seen earlier in the video.
I wanted to show you a quick video of the patch that I had to make for the rocker panel on the driver's side. As you remember earlier in the video, I showed you that the rockers were pretty solid, actually very darn solid in the front and in the middle and really all the way back until you got to about the last probably 9 inches, 10 inches here. This part was rotted away. And inside the channel up in there where the weather stripping goes was pretty rotted and had pinholes in it. So I cut it all out basically right about here and created a U-shaped piece to weld in there. And then I just got it primed and seam sealed. Still got to sand it down a little bit and paint it. I got one little hole here I got to tend to. That won't be a big deal to fix that. Alright, so I got to assembling the video for this job, and it occurred to me that I didn't have a really good video of the finished product or the patch up by the driver's side, where the driver's feet go near the dimmer switch. So I just wanted to get some quick footage of that and tack it on. So this is the driver's side floor pan and all the additional little patches welded in. You can see the holes I drilled to put the seat back in it. I had the seat back in it temporarily just so I could move the car around before I started on the passenger side. So that patch right in the middle of your screen there bridges that little gap from where the floor pans I ordered stop, and the good metal began up in that corner. I was really fortunate in this corner that all the structural stuff was in pretty good shape, and all I had to do was basically patch the horizontal portions, the floor portion, not the wall portion, the vertical portion. That was all in really, really super good condition. I did add one additional patch here, just kind of tacked it on the outside. It wasn't really necessarily needed, but it's just reassurance. I'm told that this corner here on both sides, driver's and passenger side, is the corner that gets most of the stress. So I wanted to make sure it was good and solid. But like I said, everything in that space inside that hole there, I can't really get a picture of it, but everything's in good condition in there. I lucked out on this driver's side. I wish I could say I got so lucky on the passenger side, but that is the subject of the next video.